Hello everyone and welcome to my A to C stitch with me. Today we're gonna work some more on the house. This is the Frosty Forest series by Cottage Needlework, and I'm currently working on Snowgirl's Cottage. And today we're gonna start on the actual house. And then we need the Gentle Art Morning Glory is the name of the floss that is used on the house. Need to get 2 strands, and if you have a strand cut off, like these are pre-cut, then all you need to do is just stab the end, and you can take one of the ends and just pull out, and you have them separated. And for 2 you do that 2 times, and for 3 you do it 3 times. So easy way to separate the floss. This one. And I totally forgot. I need to do the white first, but then we have the floss at least ready to go, right? On the needle and everything. Okay, so I need to do this white one first. And it's been a while since I have shown you how I thread the needle. So right now I literally can't see, but it doesn't matter. So I just push down between my fingers and it's on. And I all I could see was a little bit through the camera. Couldn't actually see my floss, but as you saw, it's still fairly easily thread the floss on. And this is this needle with the ballpoint tip. Usually it's very easy to thread. So sometimes I have to fold the floss around the needle and then do the method you saw to get it on there, but usually it's not that hard. No licking, no thread, needle threader, just so that's how I thread my needle. Doesn't need to be hard. But I can get issues, especially if I use a needle that doesn't have a good eye. But most of the time I can thread almost anything. Like even that method works on metallic floss like the Kreinik. The even the 8 braid, I'm using that on my Winter Queen that I haven't stitched on in a long time, and I can, with that method, I can get it right on there without having any issues. So that's nice. And that's how I always have threaded my needle since I was little. That's how I learned to do it from my mom. And even though my mom is it's a weird thing. She thought she kind of learned me that method, but at the same time she's a floss licker. So yeah, I don't know why. It just is. She because she obviously know how to use. Zooming a little bit more out for you. She obviously know how to do the method I'm doing, but still she's, a lot of the time when I have seen her stitch, she is licking the floss when she's threading the needle, so I don't know. But it's not like it's a big deal. No, let me see. I wanted, which of these ends did I want to start with? Yeah, the other one. So, pulling the floss to the other end because this is just a little bit darker blue. And the pin stitch you just saw me do, you can also do on the diagonal and do it as the first leg of the stitch. I don't know why, I'm just not a big fan of it. I think it's because I'm very picky about how my stitches are looking, and I kind of feel they doesn't look very good when I have done it that way. So and then we need a new color. And that's going to be 869. 869. If you hear me sniveling, it's because I'm still sick. Remember, you're watching this pre-recorded, so it's not like I have been sick for 2 weeks, but I have been sick for a while. And if you didn't watch my last video, my A to Z stitch with me, and if you're wondering if I forgot a week, the answer is no. I didn't forget a week. I have just decided for, at least for a while, only post the 8 stitch with me's every other week. So one, I feel like there's not that many people watching each and every week, so I think maybe there's a little bit much to watch on FlossTube. And two, it also helps me not having a whole lot to deal with, because then I don't need as many videos recorded, and then it's easier to get ahead and stay caught up. I'm torn between if I should end it off or park it, but I think I'm gonna end it off because it's slightly darker than the blue color, the Morning Glory. I don't want it to show through. The parked floss can sometimes show through if you have a lighter, if you have a darker floss running under a lighter one. So I think I'm gonna end this off there. Oh, hold on. Ah, I had to sneeze. So I was lucky enough to be quick enough to hit pause, so you wouldn't hear me sneezing. Because yeah, I'm sick and my allergies are really bad right now. There was a mom in my son's class. She said the same thing, like she is struggling with her allergies. So I think this year there's just a lot of it, much more than it usually is. So yeah. Here is luxury sometimes to breathe in properly, especially when you have allergies. I feel like no matter what I do with this setup right here, you constantly get my hand in the way. So I'm just gonna try to do this. It's, yeah, I know you suddenly are crooked, but I'm getting annoyed with trying not to have my hand in the way while stitching, or at least not too much. So this looks better, at least on camera. A new color, because we're gonna make those pine cones. That's the brown we just stitched. It's a part of the pine cones, I believe. Or it's like a garland. And then the pine cones hanging down from them. Something to that effect. It's not always easy to see exactly what it's supposed to be with these more more simple designs. And I don't say that as this is less of a pattern. It's nice having these types of patterns. Like you have a good amount of details, but the details aren't like super intricate, because then you would start to have like fractionals and stuff, and sometimes it's nice not to do fractionals, and sometimes I like doing fractionals. Just depends. But I don't like, I could stitch a pattern that have fractionals when on camera, but I don't think I would do it like an A to C stitch with me. That would just be too much. Same with like pattern that has a lot of specialty stitches. Like I could do a good amount of parts of it on camera, kind of showing off some of the specialty stitches and such, but I don't think I would ever do all of it. It just, because then I don't think I would ever get the pattern done, because it would take too much. Like the whole setup, just getting ready for filming and everything, takes a lot. So having difficulty in the pattern on top of that, I think would just be stressful instead of relaxing and nice. And I decided, when I decided what I wanted to stitch for this week, that I'm gonna make it look like paneling that is laying on the house. So that's why I'm going back and forth, because I want that stripy effect. Because in Norway we have a lot of wood paneling on our houses, and you either have them laying horizontally, like now this will be. I don't know how well it will show up with this variegation, but it is what it is. Or it will be vertically, like they have done on our house, and that's a pain. Because when you had the wood paneling laying like this, that's one of the most populars to have. It's a lot easier if because the furthest down on the wall, since we have a lot of rain, even though we have like painted the house, the water still affects the wood. So if you have vertical, like we have, when we have to swap the wood out for a new one because the one we have is starting to rot, you have to change all of it, which is a big pain. But if you have it laying horizontally like this, you can get away with only changing like the bottom one one or two times before you need to take the whole house. Because after a while with wood houses and paneling, a lot of time you have to end up changing the whole thing. It's not like you have to do every year. Like, it's not that bad. It's just something you have to do every now and then. I don't know. The paint is supposed to hold for a really long while. Maybe every 5 years or something. Depending on the paint and how well the paint job have been done. Actually gonna stitch this one back because it's starting to get short. So, and we're gonna get into a section that has a lot of things happening right here. So having multiple strands of the same color isn't going to be like a bad idea. So that's what I'm doing. So for the And I was actually been watching, not like floss tube, but I have looked a lot on Instagram, especially in the March mayhem, somebody calls it, where they do like instead of mania, you have March mayhem, where you start a lot of things, or you have the brackets and stuff, where you stitch on different projects each day. And I had wanted to do something like that this year, and then the end of February was just, that's when all the trouble started. And then it got worse when March happened, so I just ended up not doing anything. But I have been thinking that next year, I think I definitely want to do something like that. And I might even do that later this year, like maybe even in April. Like May usually isn't a good month, and it's not gonna be a good month this year. On top of everything else we have in May, my niece is having her confirmation. So that's happening on top of everything else in May. Or maybe in June, like the beginning of June, do something like that to kind of have a little extra fun for me before summer vacation starts for my son and husband. Or I was even thinking something like August, September. August is usually a really busy month because my birthday is there and there's just a lot of things happening in August. Usually, we have to frog. Because taking this to the back, it would just make it easier to pull through that, because I did like a tacking stitch or a mini pin stitch. I am trying to get the pin stitch. It's so much easier to do from the back. Like from the back, this is like not a problem at all to get this undone. With your needle, like you have to use force. It's not like it will just loosen by itself. But it's more difficult from the front, and when filming you can't exactly just turn around whenever you want the frame, because then you will hit the camera or the tripod or a lot of other stuff. So in that regards, I do like kind of wish I still stitched in hand, because if you have seen Stitching Mommy and her Stitch With Me, it's like since she is stitching in hand, it's so easy to just flip the project to the back. So stitching in hand on camera is a lot easier than, well, not a lot easier, like it has its pros and cons. Stitching in hand or stitching on a frame when filming, because on a frame you don't need to worry that you are in view of the camera. And I feel it's a little bit more stable without actually having a lot of knowledge in that area. Let's go up to the side. And now we're gonna stitch more on this tree, because I'm just in that mood today, kind of being all over the place. This is actually a really good angle. The biggest problem, like when it comes to not having my hand in the way, the biggest problem is that it's very hard for me to see if I'm in focus. But I can live with that. Sit. What did I just... Okay, I see what I did. Okay, so I need to rock again, because this is supposed to be 2 stitches, not 1. I'm clearly not paying enough attention today. Okay. Then 2. Okay, so this is in the correct spot, the green one. 2. Go here, and then 5. I think I'm only gonna go 4, because then I can go here, do tacking stitch that way. So this is 4, 5, and in the upper section right here. gonna do another one. And I hope this is in the correct place now. That's why I usually don't like to stitch too far ahead. And this floss, I have to end it. And I think I'm gonna end it up here. There's already just one more, just in case. Now I really don't hope that I was in the wrong place, because frogging that is gonna be a pain if I ever have to frog it. So let's hope not. But first, no, it's fine. I can do this first. Oh yeah, I'm really talking to myself. But if you get something out of it, then good by me. I actually experienced that yesterday. I was stitching on my Star Wars Christmas ornament, and if you remember that one, if you see my floss tube updates, it has a lot of single snowflakes all over the place. And I'm railroading the stitches by taking the needle between the two flosses before going down, just to make sure it covers up the green underneath. That's why I do that here. So yeah, it has a lot of single snowflakes where you kind of have to I have to start with the loop method and then pin stitch under the stitch I just did, because it has a lot of single stitches. It's on black fabric, and that white floss will show through if you try and travel with it. So yeah, it's very fiddly. And I ended up sitting talking to myself almost for, I don't know, half an hour, because something was wrong and I couldn't find out what was wrong. So I kind of talked to myself to find out what had gone wrong, basically. And I ended up finding what it was. Luckily, it was a pretty easy fix. It was one of the single stitches I had done was one section too high. So I just needed to pull that out and redo it. And then everything was back in place, luckily. With that little stitch being moved. Because I did count somewhere else and that counting wasn't correct. Or like, it was correct, but it was wrong from the other stitches I had done close by, and that stitch was one of them. So I was kind of struggling with finding out where had something gone wrong, and that section I was doing was a pretty big section, so it would have been devastating if I had to frog that section. So luckily it was just one of the stitches being one off, and with that one I have to count in as many directions as I can because there's so many single stitches all over the place. So yeah, everything worked out in the end, luckily. With not much stitching, but afterwards I was thinking like that would most likely have been a really interesting video because me talking to myself just sounds like me talking to you when I'm filming. Like, because that's what I'm basically doing. I'm talking to myself. When what you experience is that I talk to you, but my reality is I'm talking to myself while I have my camera turned on. um, so yeah, it would most likely have been a very entertaining video. And if you're like me, when I'm watching people stitch with me, especially if they do anything wrong, I'm like, if I didn't notice the mistake myself, I will like try to help them find the mistake. Like counting with them and looking. And if they have done a mistake, I'm totally telling them, oh, that's the mistake you did. And they can't hear me, but I don't care. And yeah, that's what I do. I hope that was okay to cut off. Yeah, it was. Always getting nervous when I have to start cutting without actually looking too closely on the pattern. It was fine. No worries. And I hope I can get 5 stitches out of this. This is the second stitch. So 3 more stitches. Because that's what I have planned to do today. And it's been a while. I think I'm gonna end off this floss. Before it gets too short, because if you can see, I have a pretty decent tail left on there, but I hate having too small of a tail when I'm stitching on camera, because I have done that one too many times where I have to play floss chicken on camera, and that's the worst. When I don't film, I do it all the time. I actually enjoy it. Oh, sorry, I bumped you. But I hate doing it when I'm filming. So yeah. So yeah, that was the stitches today. So all the branches are done on this tree now. All the branches and all the green. So there's just a little bit more of the trunk of the tree. A fair bit amount, like, I don't know, 14, 15 stitches, something like that, I guess. And yeah, and we got a good start on the house with the pine cones hanging down. And there's gonna be more pine cones hanging here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tackling more of this house. So that's what I have for you today, and I will see